Can you start a podcast with me, please? I need something to do.
Pastrnak sent it out in front of Morgan to save. They score! Elias Lindholm looks to the heavens.
Here's a chance. Potter right in, and goalie scores. Oh my, what a move by the rookie.
2-on-1. Pastrnak moving in with Marchand. Get it to it. Score!
The zone. Hoyle dances in. Backhand score!
Lindholm right wing corner. Pastrnak is there. He scores! David Pastrnak wins it for Boston.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Bruins Tape to Tape. I'm your host, Caroline, and I'm here with my fabulous co-host. Happy New Year, Maria. I haven't really had a chance to talk hockey with you face to face in 2025.
I know this is our first official episode together for 2025, and thank you to our friends Mo and Adrian for stepping in and helping us out so we could take a little bit of a holiday break, a little bit of an extended holiday break, and enjoy the time with our families. But yeah, it's good to be back, I think, right? It's good to be back.
I think so. You know, hockey is on TV, and I guess I can't be all that upset because I know that you and I will both be complaining come June and July and August, no matter what is happening right now, in Boston. So let's dive right in because it's been not really the start of the calendar year that we've been hoping for and expecting, especially considering how Boston ended the month of December prior to the break. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But two things, we're going to go a little bit out of order from what we're normally doing. We'll talk a little bit about some fun news around the rink. Two pieces. One, the IIHF Hall of Fame class of 2025 has some very familiar faces as the inductees for this year. And of course, the most important one to us, Zdeno Chara, former captain of the Boston Bruins, going in as one of the most accomplished athletes in Slovakia's history. He played in 3 Olympics, 7 men's world championships, 2 World Cups. And of course, we all know and love him from his time as our Big Z in Boston. So that's been some pretty fantastic news to hear from him. Hopefully we continue to see some more accolades for him stateside. I know you are also waiting for the day that we see his numbers raised to the rafters, but I'm probably going to be a grizzled old woman by the time that happens because we know how the Jacobs family loves to take forever to actually honor cornerstone members of the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, they're waiting to try and figure out how they can maximize the financial gain on something of that magnitude. Let's just call it what it is. It's all about monetizing it and how best they can do that. Don't even get me started on Boston sports owners right now. Between the Jacobs and the Kraft family right now, I am telling you, and then you can throw John Henry in there. We do not have a trifecta of great owners right now amongst our Boston fan base. So
it's hard to be, I think, a Boston fan no matter the sport, except for, PWHL, because they just keep doing their thing and they're doing a great job no matter what.
They are doing a great job.
The other thing,
congratulations to Big Z. Hopefully, as you said, it's going to be one of many accolades. There should be a Hockey Hall of Fame induction for him at some point in time, along with raising his number to the rafters, which will come with any number of controversial questions after that in terms of other players who should they or shouldn't they go up into the rafters. But that will be a podcast for a different day.
Yes. And the other big news around the rink, around the world, actually, is the fact that Team USA won their second back-to-back gold medal for World Juniors, which is pretty fantastic. I think it says a lot about what we're going to be talking about a little bit later in this episode, of the fact that the Boston Bruins were the only NHL team to not have representation in this tournament this year. But many congratulations to Team USA.
USA hockey has come a long way, baby. And
oh my God.
It is such a testament to, the organization, the players, their families.
Yeah.
Just an awesome showing for Team USA. And I thought Canadian fans were going to burn Canada down after Team Canada lost. I mean, anyone who knows anything about hockey knows that this is a, sacred tournament of and to be knocked out in the manner in which Team Canada was knocked out, it was probably pretty devastating to hockey fans in Canada. So, but you know what? Credit to Team USA, and credit to USA Hockey for continuing to build and grow a solid program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It was really exciting. And of course, the beautiful, touching tribute at the very end for the entire tournament. Team USA had Johnny Gaudreau's jersey in their locker, and they took a team photo after they won. So that was a really beautiful thing that they did. And I got all warm and squishy inside learning about that. But
awesome.
So let's talk about these Boston Bruins.
Do we have to?
We do. We do. We're going down with this ship, Maria. We're going down with this ship.
We are going down with this ship.
So,
what a trying year.
We're going to set the table in a little bit of a different way. We're going to set the table with our penalty box because that's where we are at this point. At this point, we are effectively putting the roster construction in the penalty box. So what does that mean, Maria? We've talked about this a little bit in our Discord group, which everyone again join. We're a fantastic group. What of the roster construction elements are you throwing in the penalty box at this point in the season?
So I'm going to sound hypocritical, but that's our right to do so as podcasters, as fans, because I did give Don Sweeney, I did give him some credit for going out and getting, Zadorov and Lindholm, understanding the rationale for doing so. Moving, fast forwarding now, we're in January of the current season, and we're well within our rights to make assessments and critiques of whether or not that has or hasn't worked out. I don't think that it's worked out because we're not seeing it in the level of play that we were expecting to see, not only from these two new roster players, but from players that we were expecting similar, if not bigger contributions from than the prior season. And I'm talking about guys like Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha and Trent Frederick and Charlie McAvoy, and even David Pastrnak, he, didn't come out of the gates roaring. Now, when you talk about poor roster construction, here's where I think sometimes our GM has gone a little amok or maybe misguided, because back in 2011, the Bruins caught lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
We didn't have, a roster full of superstars.
Mm-mm.
You had Chara, you had Bergeron, but you also had guys like, Dennis Seidenberg and Andrew Ference and Mark Recchi. And now, would I qualify those guys as superstars? No, I would not. But they were hard working. They gave you a hard working, honest effort.
Yep.
Game in, game out, shift after shift after shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to refer to this group of guys, the non-Charas, the non-Bergeron, you're not your superstar guys,
Right.
as Jags, just another guy. And you won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. But then that GM proceeded to sign some of these Jags to ridiculous contracts.
Right.
Thinking, okay, it worked for me, right?
Yep.
So then you had the whole debacle with the salary cap. And I just think that when I say we, our management core has a tendency to sometimes just say to themselves, I can put together and I can get the most out of these guys.
Yeah.
That are Jags, as opposed to trying to go out and sign yourselves some elite talent.
Yeah.
Elite talent, especially if you don't have an appetite. And we've talked about this before, especially if you don't have an appetite to do a rebuild.
Right. Exactly. Which we know they're never going to do.
Right.
They're never going to do that again.
And at this point, right, when you see the struggles that we ourselves are seeing by watching these games and these shifts and these periods night after night, where we're saying to ourselves, do I really need to keep watching this? Must I keep watching this? Because you're boring me to tears with this kind of hockey. Why did Fabley and Lysell only get one game? Why is Patra still down in Providence? These are the things where it's like you've got guys on this roster right now, who are kind of giving you nothing. Right. I mean, Frederick, that was the first goal he had scored since when? Sometime in November? Yeah.
Early December. Yeah. Flyers. Yes.
He keeps getting his shifts. He's played every freaking game. And I know it sounds like we pick on Freddie. And yes, we do pick on Freddie because he drives us crazy. He drives me crazy. Yeah. He drives me crazy.
Yep.
And so I don't understand why we're rewarding these guys. Yet Lysell came up, he showed you something, didn't do anything to boot himself out, didn't think it was any kind of a waiver issue or transactional issue. I don't understand it. I don't understand why Patra isn't back up here with this club, especially when you've started the month of January 2025 struggling to score goals. Oh, and by the way, even when you score 4 goals in a night, you still lose.
Not enough.
Game.
It's not enough. It's not enough. No, it's
not.
So,
yeah, I think it's okay for us to criticize and to put Sweeney in the penalty box.
Yep. So we're going to talk more about Don Sweeney in the penalty box right after a word from our sponsors.
Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
All right. So this is what I'm hearing that's in the penalty box, courtesy of Don Sweeney. We've got a lack of balanced scoring. We have no idea what their true identity is, although they're trying to still make it and keep it be that strong defensive core because that is the system. So we hear a lot about, broadcasters or whomever talking about, the Bruins identity. The Bruins system identity is defense, but this team, this construction of players on the ice, they don't have an identity still. They're boring even when they're winning or playing well. And there's no natural scoring talents out there besides Pasta. And by that, I mean, and I hate that I have to give this as an example, but if you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, that team isn't just Austin Matthews and a bunch of Jags, right?
Nope.
There's Austin Matthews. There's John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Matt Nyes. I mean, that's 4 guys right there who, by the way, kind of gave the Bruins a spanking on Saturday night. You know, they're even with these new guys and, the directive going into free agency last year was we need to be, bigger. And I don't even remember now what the second thing was because I feel like that's all he was really thinking about, which was size, which granted, valid, right? That's why they got rid of Matt Grzelcyk and they brought in Zadorov and they needed another centerman with better face-offs, which again, yes, mission accomplished. The Bruins have a fantastic face-off win percentage. Great. That was a problem last season with the departure of 2 significant centermen. But he didn't get more guys who are actually natural scorers. There are plenty of guys who work really hard, who are very good players. And, we'll talk about them a little bit later when we kind of look at the silver linings, because we don't want to end, our podcast today on a very sad note, because there are still things that are positive to take out of what we've seen so far. But, thinking about those main issues, here are some hot takes that I want to get your honest Maria feedback to see what you think. So, Sweeney has made 4 major mistakes in the last several years to get them into this current situation that they're in. 1, he fired Cassidy and Jim Montgomery. 2, he let Jake DeBrusk walk. 3, he's had a bunch of busted draft picks. And 4, he's signed free agents who don't actually produce. What do you think?
So I'm on record with regard to the Cassidy firing as being in total disagreement with it. And I'll stand by that. from now until the end of time, or until, someone convinces me otherwise. We've discussed this in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a fan of management capitulating to players who are not able to take constructive criticism, or, dare I say, a coach being a little mean. So I think that started the downward trajectory, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So then you double down, right? You double down on that, and you go and get yourself a player's coach,
mm-hmm.
who was Jim Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and again, I don't even know if that was handled appropriately, because for the longest period of time, we had heard another name who was the major candidate. And then all of a sudden it was like Jim Montgomery came in as like, the dark horse, and just, jumped ahead of the rest of the field. So
and he was not allowed to have his own staff.
And he was not allowed to have, right. And we'll get to that, because I don't understand. Like, Chris Kelly, thank you for being part of the 2011 Stanley Cup championship team. But
you gotta go.
Whatever you're coaching with this power play, you, sir, suck at it, because it's putrid at this point. It's
costing them games.
It's costing them games. You are
right.
Absolutely right. And not only is it costing you, not only are you not scoring, but you've given up how many freaking shorthanded goals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And when you're getting the extra attacker, it's effectively the same thing. And he is running those plays as well. So in the Islanders game, when they had, they pulled Swayman, he was the one, the camera showed he's dictating the play. He's coaching the play, and they blew it.
So the Jake DeBrusk thing, the mistake that he made, that Sweeney has made, that will be unfortunately not a strong aspect of his legacy as a Bruins GM, is Jake was part of that infamous draft 2015, where you have virtually nothing to show for it now after he walked.
Yep.
I had no desire to keep him on this roster at a significant sum of money. I don't know what he signed for in Vancouver, but I also don't have any patience left for streaky players.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And he was, do they miss his speed? Probably they do. But did he show you anything in his contract year that would say to you, okay, you know what? I've changed my mind. You gotta give this kid another shot and keep him on.
Yeah.
Keep him on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think for Jake, it went poorly for him when it came out that he had requested a trade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that let's call a spade. The Bruins organization holds grudges. Management holds grudges.
Yes, 100%. And I think,
and they're stubborn. They're stubborn. And when they make a decision about what they think a player's worth or value is, they're not going to be swayed by what the market says or what
Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and can you say that too can be detrimental to developing your roster?
Yep. Yes. And I think, with the Jake DeBrusk piece, yes, that relationship was poisoned. I don't think there was anything that was truly ever going to save it, because I think it was such a negative experience for both sides that the only way he would have stayed was for extra money, regardless if he actually earned it. It's kind of like you've been in a really terrible job, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, we do want you to stay in our toxic environment. We're going to throw some extra money at you. You do consider it, right? You're like, all right, maybe I'll stay, but you're going to have to pay me a lot more, right? I think with the Jake DeBrusk non-personal piece of it, as a player, Don Sweeney allowed a player who I think he might not have that natural scoring talent and ability like Mitch Marner as the secondary, or Tavares as the secondary, but he's more than a Jag, at least what he as a player was able to bring. And one of the things that I've noticed without him on the roster has been the speed. I mean, like half the guys out there are skating with bags of cement around their waist.
Right.
But the playmaking and the IQ of some plays, we're seeing constantly terrible passes and guys standing in places that they're not supposed to be standing. And so I think the larger issue the larger sin that he committed, Don Sweeney, was not finding another player who could bring those particular skills in to replace him. And that's
maybe he thought he had in, a Max Jones type. I don't know. But, and again, this is, we're doing what we do. We can talk about, we can, decipher. But if Don Sweeney wanted to keep Jake DeBrusk and still have him be a member of the Boston Bruins this year, would you have Lindholm and Zadorov? Because I don't think
probably not
that you can do both of those things. You wouldn't have been and also sign your franchise goalie. So, sometimes those are decisions that, that's why they get paid the big bucks and we get to sit behind our, Amazon microphones and talk about these things. But the irony of the Jake DeBrusk situation is, and tying it back to Bruce Cassidy being fired, was, now if you believe what you hear, that Jake was one of the players.
Right.
And he wasn't the only one. Let me make this perfectly clear. He was not the only player that seemingly had an issue with how Bruce was coaching them.
He was, if he hadn't already lost the room, he was losing the room.
He was losing the room. So the fact now that neither one of those guys is even here anymore. Right?
Yeah. And then so we've now got a roster that there's no natural scoring because either through draft picks or signings, nothing has truly panned out. The lack of chemistry means, I think the lack of chemistry is what makes it boring on some nights, because, you don't have to have a 6-4 game for it to be an exciting game to watch. You can have a 2-1 game be an exciting, thrilling game. But, we just saw the Boston Bruins play the New York Rangers and they lost 2-1. And I thought I was going to die of boredom because that was just agonizing to watch. So thinking about all of these roster construction issues, the power play, because of the roster, because of who management has opted to keep behind the bench, all of these different things, thinking about these games that we just watched, what are some common threads or issues that you saw? We had a 3-1 loss against Washington, 2-1 loss against the Rangers, who, dead last in their division, made them look like Stanley Cup contenders. I don't like the game in Toronto, just ridiculous. And then an overtime loss against the Islanders. So what did you take away from those particular games? Is anything even fixable at this point? And what does Don need to do between now and March 7th to address this?
Hold, please.
Yes.
Sorry, folks. I'm just getting over something. I think you put it pretty concisely in our Discord. The defense looks like Swiss cheese. Like I thought they had turned a corner.
Yeah.
Before the holiday break.
Strong.
And we thought, okay, they've identified themselves as working towards being a defensively sound team, where, they were getting harder to play up the middle. They weren't letting forwards and wingers get, just kind of dance right through or get in behind them. And I'm not sure what's happened since the holiday break. Now, mind you, they were still doing well. And I know some of this is due to the fact that Hampus Lindholm has been out for a long period of time.
Yep.
But they had seemed to have turned a corner.
Yeah.
However, I think that it's starting to wear and tax the other defensemen. Brandon Carlo does not look as sharp. He hasn't looked sharp, really, honestly,
all season.
But particularly right now, Mason Lohrei, his mistakes and his weaknesses are becoming more glaring. Nikita Zadorov, sometimes I just want to climb on a step stool and say, do you have, what are you thinking sometimes when you're out there? Because I don't understand what you're doing with the puck sometimes. So I'm just wondering if it's all coming to a head.
Yeah.
And, some of our forwards aren't being as defensively responsible as we've been accustomed to them being. So I think it's a comedy of errors. And what's happening is teams are capitalizing on every goddamn mistake we make. Right. You don't think that these teams are now watching video from prior games where they're seeing, the inability to make a play on the puck or get the puck out of the zone, or, instead of swinging it around to the left, they're swinging it around to the right, or whatever the case may be. And so, even vulnerable teams that are not supposed to be better than you.
Yep.
And you're losing to them.
Yeah.
You made the New York Rangers. They were waiting for you, ripe for the picking.
Yeah.
Because they were so down and so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yet you gave them hope. How many times this season has that happened where the Bruins have given the likes of the Columbus Blue Jackets, the New York Islanders, the New York Rangers hope, where you should have been able. Now, I don't want to say win easily, but those were games that you should have won. They were winnable games that you should have taken points away.
Yep. 100%.
It's maddening. It's freaking maddening.
It is. And I think in those particular games, when Boston then starts to feel like they're losing the game, whether or not they actually are, but, it's that mental perception. it's not that they're checking out, but they
No.
they
So
start to
they're
make
doing good things.
mistakes.
They're not quitting.
Right.
But
They're getting
when
flustered,
they make a
so to speak.
mistake, or when things go south,
Right.
they go south in a quick hurry.
And because
this
they
team doesn't have a bounce, they don't have that bounce back factor.
Yeah.
When they fall behind, I don't have a whole ton of faith that they're going to have the gumption to come back and storm back and win when they fall behind in the game this season. I don't.
No. And, they don't have, because they don't have that scoring, if their defense has an off night, they just have a night where they are frantic and a little bumbling, there's nothing else to back it up. And I think I certainly was able to identify in the Rangers game and in the Islanders game, very, very quick opportunities that Boston had to score. I mean, Oliver Wahlstrom had one, I think, if not in both of them, at least in the very beginning of the Rangers game. And, not having that puck luck or whatever you want to call it, he couldn't get the puck up. And I knew right then, I think it was possibly in the Toronto game, there was a moment where it was basically an empty net in the very beginning because the Toronto goalie was completely out of position and he slid a little out of the crease and they couldn't score.
Oh no.
And so you see that. And I think that right there tells you what kind of night it's going to be, that they're just not having that puck luck to score the goals. And so God forbid, then your defense is having an off night because it's just going to be a miserable time.
And I said it in one of our snapshots that I wanted their New Year's resolution for 2025 to be to learn how to frigging finish.
Yep.
We have a team of very good NHL players, but there's any number of them that lack the ability to finish. And that is a problem. And that, I guess, we can turn around and point right back to Don Sweeney and roster construction.
Yep, exactly. So let's start to wrap up this conversation because we have a Bruins game to actually watch this evening.
God, Connor McDavid's in town, folks. I don't even let.
Well, let's talk about some positives. Some stick taps, right? Because I did see some individuals really start to rise above the malaise. Everybody was kind of in this funk to start the year. I mean, everybody, nobody was exempt, but we have started to see, and I have seen it. It's been most noticeable in these last few games because of the outcome of the games and how boring they were and how disappointing seeing some players out there not performing. But I think, our stick taps this week go to the likes of Mark Kastelic, who just got a well-deserved extension. He's been giving 110%
a bright spot all season long.
I'm calling him the new Uncle Nick.
He was born to be a Boston Bruin.
Yes,
he was born to be a Boston Bruin.
A phenomenal return for losing Linus Ullmark. Justin Brazeau is having a career year. He is in front of that net. His goals have been quick and just greasy, and he's there, and I'm loving it. I think he's got a career high of goals already this season, plenty of points. He's doing a fantastic job. Morgan Geekie is someone that I think, at the start of the year, a lot of us in the Discord were saying he's not having a great start. Are they going to extend him because he only had that? This is the second year. Boston, by the way, has a ton of guys going into UFA, especially for the first time. So, and this is a guy who was benched, scratched, under Jim Montgomery for lack of performance, while certain other players, Trent Frederick, have never been benched or scratched for doing also bupkis. But let me tell you, him coming back, he is, Morgan Geekie is a completely different player. He has become a much more reliable guy. When he's out there on the ice, he is moving. He is where he needs to be. And he's getting pucks on net that are actually going in. And so I think seeing his performance with Justin Brazeau and Mark Kastelic for, I would say at this point, they're a little bit more than just a regular guy. Only because they're the only ones who are actually standing up and showing us that in spite of all of these issues, they can still play a solid game. And aside from them, of course, finally starting to see a little bit, we're not quite there, a little bit of the unbridled talent of David Pastrnak. He's finally
he's been making plays and he's been a playmaker, which I thought, okay, but we need you to score goals too, guy.
Yep.
And so I really thought in Toronto, I thought he was going to really rip their hearts out and, have it get a hat trick and tie the game. But unfortunately, that wasn't meant to be. Although I'd bet a month's pay that every fan in that building was holding their collective breaths every time Toronto went ahead and we came back and thinking, here we go again. Go again. So there was a little bit of joy in that and knowing that, their guts were clenched.
Yes,
during
they
the
were.
course of that game.
Yes, they were. And I even saw, I think it was in the Islanders game, he just was bombing into the offensive zone and letting one rip. And it took me actually by surprise in that particular play because we hadn't seen that really all season. And so I'm optimistic. I'm hoping that he's going to get his groove back. I hope he has to get his groove back. He absolutely has to get his groove back, especially on the power. I'm sick to death. I am so sick to death of the conversations that we seem to be having year after year after year about the stinking power play. Yes. Yep. Yep.
Oh, and by the way, the Bruins are down 1-0.
Thanks, Maria.
Yeah, I just thought I'd share that.
But hopefully also by the time the CBA break comes around, if he is finally cooking, that doesn't kill that momentum because CBA break, you never know.
Here's another silver lining.
Yep.
The Bruins are still in a legitimate playoff spot.
They are.
They're third overall. And I know, they are lucky to be there because the rest of the Eastern Conference has had their struggles. But here's where you're going to separate the men from the boys because the stretch that they have coming up here, starting with this game tonight against the Edmonton Oilers, is nothing short of pretty much murderer's row because they've got to go to Tampa to face the Lightning. Then they're going to face the Panthers. Then they have another game against the Lightning.
Great.
These are all playoff teams, folks. Yep. These are all playoff teams.
And the Lightning are behind a lot of games.
Are we being fooled? Or can this team legitimately play with other playoff caliber teams?
Yep. But with that, we are going to wrap this up. Thank you again so much, Maria, for another lovely conversation. Any final parting thoughts?
I just want to have fun watching this team.
Yep.
That's all. Can you give us a little bit of fun? Like you're not playing like dogs, but it's just not that entertaining right now.
No, it's the dog days of the season. So
maybe we're all feeling it right now.
I think we all are feeling it now. Yep. But as always, make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on all the socials, Tape to Tape MK. And as always, go Bees.
Go Bees.
Yay.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.